What's up, you guys? James Strickland here. Welcome to week 4 on my road to 2,100 pounds and my continuation to my road to 700 pounds on bench. This week is a deload week, meaning everything is back down to about 60 to 70%. This is 425 for 3 sets of 3, so this is obviously about 145 or so pounds less than last week's top set. So definitely a considerable decrease in weight. And the idea behind a deload, if you guys don't already know, is to give the body a much needed rest. I know with me going 3 weeks, pretty much hard as can be, with all the volume that we've added in, especially the first 3 weeks of this training cycle, a deload week for me is crucial. I typically could probably handle 600 plus or so this week. But when I get into the weight room, I don't take anything away from it as far as being in there mentally, but I definitely don't take any pre-workout. And as you can see, I'm kind of wearing my tennis shoes, and so I don't take a deload week lightly, but I definitely don't take it 100% as far as effort. But I do put 100% effort into the bar. As you can see, everything is definitely lighter. This is 275 for 2 sets of 5 on incline. The weight does feel extremely heavy, which is something that's kind of weird. It's kind of an anomaly with deload weeks. It's just a matter of your body knows that it's broken down, it's kind of tired. It also knows that you're not going as heavy. So it treats it almost like a warm-up. So even like on these inverted rows, this was the body weight rows with, let's see, 3 sets of 8. These actually, my lats were on fire just from doing this small amount of volume. And that's just kind of telling me where I'm at with the volume that we've done the last few weeks. I definitely needed this deload. Deloads are something that I definitely, not only in my own training, but in my clients' training, I definitely advocate, because even if you don't think you need one, most times when you're in the deload, you realize just how much you needed it, and it just helps you going forward. This is one way that I've definitely prevented a lot of injuries, a lot of overtraining, and just overall just being, still in the weight room and still putting weight up, but not. It's more of an active rest. This is dumbbell pause floor flies with the 40, so this is 20 pounds less than last week. This is 2 sets of 12. Even this, I definitely could feel in my pecs. Considering it's 20 pounds lighter, you would think that I wouldn't even feel it. In fact, this will be a warm-up weight next week, and I probably won't feel it much at all, because my eye is on the 60 pounds or 65 pounds that we'll be working with next week. So once again, it is kind of a mental game. Pre-workout, obviously, I think plays a lot with this. When you don't take a pre-workout, obviously your stimulants aren't in there. I try to back the caffeine off a little bit on deload weeks, just so I can reset. I know if any of you have had any experience with pre-workouts, you know that typically you have to take more and more and more over time to get the same response. A deload for me helps kind of reset all that as well. So the less time in the gym, obviously, I don't spend near as much time in the gym on a deload week. So it does allow me to kind of get some personal things taken care of, which obviously balances out everything. So a deload is much more than just lightening up the weights. It's actually kind of a philosophy overall, without getting too mushy and wishy-washy there. But this is pretty much going to end it for day 1. I probably spent maybe an hour and a half in the gym this day. Typically on a bench day, it's about 4 hours. So just to give you an idea. This is day 2. I actually kind of tweaked my shoulder on day 1. Didn't really realize it until I got home. So I iced a little bit that night, and it was actually pretty sore. It felt like I had really done something. I don't remember what exactly it was, but something I did, in a combination of the upper body stuff. Tweaked the shoulder just a little bit. Nothing major. It's obviously I'm doing this voiceover on Saturday, and it is fine. And I can tell you a little bit about how I took care of that here in just a minute. But I'll tell you, these are my squat sets, and this is 445, 3 sets of 3. These actually felt heavy, considering I did 600 plus last week, 615. But once again, CNS is still trying to recover, and things are trying to move the correct way. So really I was just working on keeping the form and exploding out of the hole, just to work on that compensatory acceleration training. I don't ever want to back that off, even in a deload. No matter what, even if it's on a warm-up weight, I want to make sure that I'm moving the bar with force all the time, but controlled force, not just trying to throw it off my back, but literally trying to just shoot it up and complete the rep. And that's the key term there, is complete the rep as quickly as possible without breaking down form or injuring myself. This is moving on. We got Olympic paused squats, and this is 315 for 2 sets of 5. Pretty light. It actually was so light that on my form I was having to kind of concentrate on my form because it was so light. But these are definitely good for the quads, keeping the quads engaged, and ankle mobility is key with these, which I find myself having quite good ankle mobility. So trying to stay on the heels a little bit, considering how light it was. So basically, I'll tell you how I took care of my shoulder, because most of this other stuff is not real entertaining. Deload weeks are kind of boring, I'll tell you that much. And this is on, I did my squats on a Tuesday, and moving on here, we've got the overhand deadlift holds, 15 seconds with 315. Really not that much weight at all, but definitely trying to keep the grip strength up as we move up with deadlifts. But so my shoulder or any injury protocol is to ice 2 to 3 times a day, 20 to 30 minutes each time, for about 3 days. And then after that, I reassess, because it's going to be kind of painful anyways. That's just your body's way of dealing with it. But my thing is to ice until basically it's numb. Not too much so I get frostbite or anything like that. You want to be careful with your skin, but icing until it's basically numb. And that kind of saves on not having to take anti-inflammatories and things like that. I will if I have to. If it's something so painful I can't sleep, then I'll take maybe a sleep aid or something just to get through the night, because sleep is definitely key. But my biggest thing is about 3 days after, I will start to do bandage stretches, which I'll show you here in the next couple minutes. It's going to basically my warm up right here is what I do not only to warm up on every upper body day, but I use it at night if I need to, before I go to sleep, when I wake up, if I ever have any tightness in my shoulders. This right here is my go-to for anywhere I'm at. I literally will just start doing this. And I know it looks funny, I know it looks like child's play, but it really does help. You want to do it to where your shoulders get a good warm burn, not a painful burn, but just a good warm burn. It definitely feels, you can definitely feel yourself working doing this. But I do this sometimes once a day, sometimes multiple times a day. But this is the first thing I do after those 3 days of icing. I typically don't do it during the days of icing, just because I don't want to irritate anything, especially if something's inflamed. But today I did this, and this told me right here, by doing these bandage stretches and these arm circles, that my my left shoulder was one that was kind of messing with me after bench day. Was fine, 100%. And then I went on and did my dumbbells, that you'll see in just a second, and that tells me, because it's light enough. This particular day it was 15 pounds for my supersets, which is considerably less, about 20 pounds less than I normally would do. And this particular set will always tell me where my shoulders are at in terms of shoulder health. If it hurts, if they're painful, if there's clicking or anything like that, I typically will shut it down or lighten it up considerably, because obviously my next bench day is a few days away. I want to make sure I'm 100% for it. And of course, shoulders for me doesn't really affect deadlifts or squats, so I want to make sure that I'm addressing whatever the issue is. But so my thing on a deload is definitely addressing any kind of tweaks, form issues. Want to make sure that my mindset is right, because it's very easy to go into the gym on a deload thinking, oh, this is just lightweight, I don't need to push it very hard. But it's quite the opposite, and it is challenging. Actually, a deload week for me, not physically but mentally, is harder, because I have to bring it 100%, even though I know I'm just kind of going half. And so it's a very mindset oriented training regimen. But so here's my supersets that I typically do with 30 to 35 pounds or more. These were 15s, very light. This is just getting the blood into the muscle, which of course, when I'm doing any kind of recovery from a tweak or a strain, this, for shoulders anyways, is very good to get some blood flow, new blood into, after icing obviously, into the muscle and into the joints. This will keep the front, the side, and the rear delts very happy and healthy. In fact, I think this actually gives me more shoulder health than like overhead presses and things like that. My strength will come from the overhead presses, inclines, and things like that. So this is just giving a different angle here. So next week, I've got the training all set up. We actually have a pretty decent week. For bench, it will be a top set of 600 for 2. Squat, it will be a top set of 665 for a gym PR, and actually that's way above my meet PR because I haven't done a meet in a couple years. And then we'll be doing about 600 or so for reps on deadlift. Just maintaining the strength there for a couple weeks until we start to ramp up and start getting well into the 6s for bench. Obviously deadlift will be in the 7s, and my squats will be getting very close to the 7s. I'd really like to hit 7 or so before the meet on, well, everything other than deadlift. I've already hit it on deadlift. So this is the close grip push-ups. This is just some maintenance work. I definitely felt in my right pec, even just this. So this is another exercise that, because it's light enough, can tell me kind of where, you know, I need to maybe address some issues. So I did ice my pec a little bit just to make sure there was no problems. Nothing major, but there's always little tweaks and strains during anything. It's just knowing what the limits are and if it's injury, if it's not. So literally every workout, I'm constantly addressing where I'm at, what my status is, because it only takes one tweak to turn into an injury, and an injury to turn into something major, and you're out for a while. And that's my main key of playing it smart all the time to make sure that I don't get those injuries that are definitely ones that I can prevent. So that was the 3 sets of 12 on push-ups. This is standing one arm rear delt cable flies, real light. Set called for 20. I went ahead and bumped it to 30 just so I could keep form. Too light, it was just going to be flying across the room. And actually I'm having to really flex to kind of make sure that I'm keeping good form versus just yanking it because it is so light. So this was 2 sets of 12 with 30 pounds. And then so this is another exercise, especially during a deload, that can tell me the health of my pecs, my shoulders, my delts, and if anything is weird, especially at this lighter weight, because a lot of times when you're doing heavier weight, the adrenaline kicks in and you don't feel certain things the same way you would if you're just moving through good form through a lighter weight. So this is definitely a way to basically, and I do this exact same weight for like a warm-up before you see on the other videos. I just show you the top weight typically on this, but moving up, you know, sort of 60s and 90s on this. You know, I do the 20 to 30 pounds first, then I go to 60s, and then I show you the 90s. Same thing with like the seated rows. This is 205 pounds, 2 sets of 12. I did like 90 for about 10 of them first, then I did like 130 for another set of 10, and like 180 for a set of 10, and then you're seeing this one. So I never go into the top set, even on a deload, right away. I just want to make sure that I'm 100% warm, because it doesn't take much to tweak something. Like I said before, a tweak is never a good thing. It's normally your body's way of telling you to stop, and so I typically will stop if needed. But coming quickly to a close here, my last day was actually my shortest day ever in a gym. Literally walked in and walked out in about 15 minutes. I had 5 reps of 405 speed reps, and I'm showing you these in separate, but I actually did this all in about 1 minute. Just dead stop between. But working on speed, working on form. Definitely do not want biceps or anything like that to be engaged. So I assure you that those are things that I work on definitely during a deload week. But that brings this week to a close. I want to thank each and every one of you guys. I think we're up to about 3,800 subscribers, which is amazing. If you guys have any kind of questions for me, please don't hesitate to shoot me an email. I'll put all my information down at the bottom of the description here. But definitely thank you guys for tuning in and subscribing. And please like and subscribe and follow me on Instagram @SwimHack. See ya.